Hey folks, John Henning here, and today I wanted to talk with you about how to ask the money question. So many times, working on both sides of the fence as a franchise sales and franchise broker, and working in franchisor and franchise sales and development, too many times I'll have someone bring a candidate to me and they'll say, this is a great candidate, they're really interested, they understand the model, and we go through the process with the lead and all of a sudden realize that, whoa, wait a minute. This lead is nowhere near qualified for this particular franchise. And this was when I was at the franchise companies working there and doing consulting coaching work with franchise companies and franchise brokers as well. I'll get emails I just got an email a couple of weeks ago from a broker and said, hey, John, I'm trying to figure out what to present to this candidate. And I would ask them the questions. One of the questions is, well, how much liquid capital do they have to invest if they found the right opportunity? Oh, we haven't gotten to that yet. Well, why not? Okay, that should be one of the initial questions, and there's a way to put this into your process. It's very simple, unobtrusive, non-aggressive. Okay, so you got to set it up, right? You've got to build some rapport with the lead. You've got to go through and get them comfortable with you, and this is primarily done over the phone, of course, right? And so you're going to go through whatever your process is, and first question might be, what do you do for a living now? How long have you done that? Why are you interested in exploring franchise ownership now? What's changed? Why now? Okay. Talk with them a little bit, share some information about yourself. I've been with the company for this long. Usually folks will talk to us because these are the things they're looking for, that type of thing. And early on, within the first 10 minutes of the conversation, maybe 15 minutes of the conversation, you should ask the question, and don't be afraid of this question, okay? You should ask the money question. That can be formed in many different ways. What I'll usually do is say, hey, this is a pretty extensive due diligence process, and one of the things we're going to get to eventually are the financials, of course, right? Everybody needs to know what the numbers are in order to see if this makes sense. This is a mutual discovery process, okay? But let me ask you a question, Bob. If you went through the due diligence and went through that 2 or 3 month process to decide whether or not this was the right franchise, and let's assume you were approved, okay? Let's just say that happened. This is the right fit. You were approved, whatever franchise that is that we're talking about, and you were approved and it was the right fit. You completed your due diligence. Let's pretend that we're there for just a minute. Before we go through the next 2 to 3 months, I need to get a feel for something. I need to ask you a question, okay? Without getting into details, without being too personal, let me ask you. If you went through that process, found that opportunity were the right fit, how much capital would you be willing to invest into the business prior to financing? Okay? It's a very powerful question. How they answer it and what they say are very, very important. Those are two different things. If they're like, well, then you know that they're probably leaning towards not having a lot of capital, or maybe they're afraid to share it with you because they just started talking with you. But if you can't get that within the first 15 to 20 minutes, and they're hesitant to answer that question, chances are they're not going to go through the process anyway, right? Because the reality is that very early on with most companies, they're going to be required to fill out a franchise application or a background check form or a history form, something like that, that explains, if I find this is the right fit and I'm approved, here's where the money's going to come from, okay? So why not get it out of the way up front? I'm not saying ask the first question, how much money do you have? But you've got to ask them at the right time, earlier in the process, if you found this were the right opportunity, performed your due diligence, and it was the right fit, and you were approved for the franchise, which sets the stage, right? If you were approved for the franchise, how much capital would you be willing to invest in the franchise for the right one before financing? Okay, a lot of leads think, oh, I'm going to go get a government grant, or I'm going to get a business loan for 100% of this, and we all know that isn't how it works, right? They need to have X amount of dollars, usually about 30%. Of what the franchise total cost is before they can secure any form of financing. Keeping in mind that most of the time the franchise fee is not financeable either. So that's why we need to ask that question up front so you know where to focus your efforts. Okay? So here's the question, simply put. Bob, without getting into too much personal information, I know we just met. If you went through the due diligence process, which is about 2 to 3 months long, and found that a franchise were the right fit, and you were approved for that franchise, how much would you be willing to invest for the right business prior to any financing?